So this entity, that's the solar logos, is itself an integral part of a still greater life, which is expressing itself through 7 solar systems, of which ours is one. And as a matter of fact, these 7 solar systems are called by an interesting name, the 7 solar systems of which ours is one. He actually calls it that. People have differing ideas about what they are, but I think when Nicholas Nilan and I were teaching a class on this subject, we came to the conclusion that the star Sirius would be included in Alpha and Beta Centauri and Procyon and Altair, and there are others. Maybe Vega. Anyway, they're relatively proximate solar systems. We couldn't possibly see them as a constellation because we're right in the middle of it. We couldn't see them. And Sirius is one of the most important of this system. And so, as a hypothesis and temporarily, we call it the Sirian system of 7 major suns. And then we go on, it itself, this 7 solar systems of which ours is one, is a cosmic logos. And if we combine 7 cosmic logi, we're going to get a cosmic, a sub-parabrahmic logos, and the words don't make any difference. Suffice that there's going to be 7 major aggregations until we reach what DK calls a cosmic parabrahm. Now that's not parabrahm itself, because parabrahm itself is another name for the absolute reality, the one reality, not the universal logos. Parabrahm is a name for beingness, the ground of all being, the universal essence, that nameless, forever nameless thing, well, you can't talk about it, out of which all things came. So DK says, if you can grasp this idea, a vague picture of a great underlying esoteric truth will emerge into your consciousness. It is the life and influence, the radiations and emanations of this entity, space again, right, as he conceives it, and their united effect on our planetary life, the kingdoms in nature, and the unfolding human civilizations, which we shall have briefly to consider. This is kind of the outline of his book on esoteric astrology. And it's not so much about the individual. Not really. Although, he's kind enough to feed our little consciousness, which is so concerned about our little self. And he does give us enough individual astrology to whet the appetite. But this is a book written in broad strokes, which attempts to decentralize the reader and to make him understand that he is participating in something much bigger than his individual self. The subject is so vast that I've been faced with the problem of the best method whereby to handle it. I decided on brevity. We're on page 9 now. I decided on brevity, the concise statement of facts to those of us who are working on the inner side of life, but which must rightly be only hypotheses to you. And the avoidance of detail and of detailed discussion, well, in the mind of the master, right? Because as we read esoteric astrology and the treatise on cosmic fire, it's just like, oh my God, the amount of detail is staggering. How can we possibly remember all this? And yet, remember it, not even remember it, deal with it, work with it, relate it, correlate it. But to DK, these are concise statements of facts. And I really do think that we are very well advised to put a lot of trust in him, that he is not giving us something which is a hypothesis to him, but proven to him. And if we trust him in one or two things, we might as well trust him in everything. Because I think that through this path of trust in the Master's wisdom, the path of realization for us becomes much more rapid. We have to lay aside some of our pride, some of our rebellion, some of our preferences. We have many things that we have created over long lives, thousands of lives of living in certain ways, and we have our habit patterns. And we have things to protect that are not all that glorious. But if we can just lay those things aside and put trust in the Master's word, the path becomes very direct. But only those who have a degree of humility will be able to do this. And at least where they think it's wrong, what he says, let them at least suspend their judgment for a while, so that they can work their way slowly towards the center, following his suggestions, and perhaps they will see they were wise to suspend their disapproval, their reservations, and their antagonism toward what he says. So anyway, he says he's avoiding detail and detailed discussion. Okay. I remember some person who really didn't like cosmic fire. It must have been on a very, very different ray type, and the meticulous entirety of cosmic fire was really against the grain. So he said, this book reminds me of a 19th century text in biology, filled with the classifications of all these different species and subspecies and, all the plant names, as dry as can be for this person. But for some of us, it is absolutely one of the most exciting things we could possibly read, because it makes the image of the reality of the universe come alive for us. It's all seen as living fire and not as a dry thing at all. We will endeavor to work from the universal to the particular and from the general to the specific. This is ever the occult way, right? But our emphasis will always be on the universal and the general, and not on the particular and the specific. Well, that's at least partially true. I think Master DK sometimes, in his compassion for us, gives us a little more of the particular and the specific than he intended to. But it is his goal to see these things from the big picture. It will rest with those of you who are students of astrology to make due application of the truth to the specific. And of course, we are attempting to do this, to take what we think we understand and step it down so that those who understand still less than we do can understand something, and they will do the same. Until what begins very, very high in the stratosphere of esoteric thought becomes extremely practical application in our life of every day. It is definitely in this connection that modern astrology has gone astray. Here's a little critique. It has reversed the true and right procedure and has laid the emphasis upon the specific and particular, upon the personal horoscope and the individual destiny, and has not laid emphasis upon the great energies and their source. Well, people are so self-absorbed. What's happening to me? What does this mean to me? It's not so much who am I within this larger whole, who is the one in whom I live and move and have my being, and what is the purpose of this one, and what is the purpose of that one in the one in whom he lives and moves and has his being, and so forth. We do have myopia. We do have self-centeredness. We care an awful lot about what we see immediately. You look in the mirror, what you see is what you get. That's me. Oh, there I am. the I, that is I in the mirror. But of course, it's the outer crust of the true reality, the very periphery of reality. And we have to have occult vision to penetrate beyond the appearances of things as they are. So what is the source? Get to the bottom of it. Go deeper and deeper. Use Pluto, use Mercury. Dig in and lay illusions to either side as things become more and more real to your perception. These great sources, these sources are ultimately responsible for the manifestation of the specific. Of course they are. This position and presentation of truth must be altered, and that's why DK comes along with this marvelous book. And a lot of astrologers pick it up and they throw it down right away, because if he is correct, then what have they been spending their lives upon? What have they been doing with year after year of their life? If he is correct, if the new tenets of esoteric astrology are true, what have they been wasting their time on? Well, it's not a waste. You learn something. But how limited is the scope? So naturally they reject, because if your whole life begins to look puny and minuscule and insignificant, the first thing is to reject the source that makes it look that way, rather than achieve some humility or a sense of right proportion. Yes, most of what we do is puny, minuscule, and insignificant. And maybe we will wake up to that fact and embrace a larger picture. In esoteric astrology, we are therefore dealing with the life and the lives which inform the points of light within the universal life. Whoa, now isn't that an incredible statement? Let's underline that. If I can. Let's see. This would require having things in a better position. Okay, let's read that again. In esoteric astrology, we are therefore dealing with the life, the one, and the lives, the many, which inform the points of light, which are all the many beings, within the one universal life. It's nothing but the life and the many lives which are really points. I think it's a big metaphysical problem, how to conceive of points within points within points within points within finally the one ultimate point for every universe. As far as reality goes, the ultimate reality, space in the largest sense of the word, it is pointless. Pointless to think about and pointless. The minute the point appears, you have manifestation, you have lives. And the one point becomes the many point. The one flame becomes the many flames. So this is another one of those incredible statements that one could take into consideration for a year, maybe more, maybe one's whole life. In esoteric astrology, we are therefore dealing with the life and lives which inform the points of light within the universal life. Every deva, every human being, every atom, every electron, every subatomic particle, every ultimate particle event, as I've sometimes called it, is nothing but a point. A point. And how does one differentiate points when they are dimensionless? And yet they are. So this is one of the greatest of the metaphysical problems.